Hey guys, welcome to the Sports Stance Podcast with Greg and James. I'm the second part, and with me, as always, he waited outside my window with a boombox above his head. It's Greg Cowan, everybody. What's happening, baby?
I missed you so much. I needed you to come back. I hope this proved that it worked, though.
That was very Cusack of you. I loved it.
Dude, he was the smart one. It was a smart man right there. He knew what would get your attention.
We don't have enough Cusack references in this podcast, and I like that we're writing that ship, Greg. We're writing it.
Yeah, I mean, he came back into my life during the World Series. I saw him behind home plate a few of those games, getting crazy.
I love when these improbable World Series or championship runs when you always have like the marquee fans that are at every single game.
Oh yeah.
Oh, here's Eddie Vedder. Oh, here's John Cusack. Oh, here's Bill Murray. You know, there's always like the couple fans that they always need to show you at every single game. Like, look, they're normal people too.
Yeah, and seventh inning stretch. Let's get Vince Vaughn in here. Let's do that because he's a top celeb.
yeah. I think he still would be a top celeb if it was not for True Detective Season 2, but we will not get into that on this podcast, Greg. That's my pledge. That's my pledge to you.
Let's not get into the murder talk.
No more murder talk. There's not been a lot of murder talk recently. I gotta be honest.
I'm sorry about that.
Yeah.
Hey, pro athletes, pick it up.
Yeah. Where's the murder?
Where's the new OJ?
I'm fired up tonight, Greg. I'm back after a week hiatus. It was sad. I know. It's kind of like when your significant other leaves for a little bit, and you get a little sad at first, and then you kind of get some freedom. But then when they get back, you realize, oh, I just miss you so much. That little time away made me know how much I miss you. And I imagine, Greg, that is the emotions that you're feeling right now. Your thoughts?
It is. I mean, Dan did a great job last week. No lie, he did a great job.
We loved you.
It just didn't feel the same. There was a spark missing. And you're that spark.
Yeah, well.
You're that spark.
I'm fired up. I'm back. I'm back and ready for action. This is a little treat for the podcast listeners at home too. We normally do this in the morning, but we're doing it in the evening tonight. And your boy's having a beer. Not to brag, a bad boy of podcasting, James, is having a beer during the recording. So things are gonna
get one now too.
Things are gonna get pretty wild.
Can I like one up you and get like a lager?
I'm drinking an IPA, man.
Fancy.
Yeah, you better. If you're gonna one up me, man, you just gotta go straight for the hard stuff, straight for the good.
I'm gonna get a special edition beer that is only small batches.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what I'm drinking right now. I'm drinking the 21st Amendment Brewery IPA right now. That's a pretty good one, right? I like their packaging.
Yeah, I like their.
But we're not here to talk about craft beer, Greg. That's not what we're here to do. We're here to talk sports, and we got.
No, that's for our other podcast. Beers are crafty.
Yeah, exactly. Crafty beers. But we have a lot to get through this week, man. Football's back.
Yeah.
You know, real football's back. College football's crazy. NBA is all over the place. Sports are happening all over this great nation, Greg. But before we get into any of that, before we get into the NFL picking this week, how are you, man? How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Not too much going on. A little bit of news for you that I forgot to tell you before we even started this.
Okay.
Signed up for like a podcasting thing that sent us an email this morning, and it showed me we were the 71st ranked sports podcast in the Philippines like a month ago.
Hey, that's awesome.
Yeah,
we love the Philippines.
They love us.
Yo, props to the Philippines. The Thrilla in Manila.
Yeah, it was a pretty exciting thing to say.
Wow. Well, hey, very cool. I will take it. And for all the 70 podcasts that are ahead of us right now in the Philippines, we're coming for you, dog.
Yeah, watch out. Hold on to your crown. We're coming for it.
Hold on to your crown. Well, cool, man. Very nice. I'm always happy to hear the good news, and to all the fans out there. My girlfriend's Filipino, so that must be it. You know, I must just really kind of attract Filipino people.
Be.
My girlfriend's Filipino, and all the people that are out there right now.
Is she
I don't know how to say.
That maybe supports us.
that actually might be the case.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. We'll take it.
Actually, I actually have no idea, potentially. But anyways, well, cool, very nice.
What about you though? What's new with you?
Not much, man. So I was off in Brooklyn last week for a work thing. Yeah, exactly. I'd never been to that area of New York before, but I really liked it, man. I dig Brooklyn. Really cool. I actually got to go check out a Nets game when I was there. Nets Timberwolves when I was out there. We had a little break, or after the training that I was at. Went out to the Barclays Center and saw the Nets play the T-Wolves, and it was a cool game. Good arena, really, really cool. Interesting.
One of the nicer ones.
It's just so new, you know. But what they do, which is really interesting, is the same thing that the Lakers do for their home court. Is they'll actually bring the lights super dark in the stands and put all of the spotlights on center court. Which is really interesting. So like whereas you go to the Garden and it's pretty light and you can kind of see everybody in the Barclays Center, or sorry, the TD Garden for all you New York fans, freaking out at me right now. But the TD Garden, it's pretty light out. At least in the stands, they have lights around the entire arena and you can kind of see everything pretty clearly. At the Barclays Center, it's very dark. So they kind of have all of the lights focused on the court, and that's either to highlight the play that's happening right now, or B, take away from the fact that there's not a lot of people in the stands right now.
Yeah, I think it's that. It's to cover up the fans, how many there actually are.
Yeah, exactly.
You can see the front courtside seats, but not the bleachers, not the high rise.
Exactly. Right. And I think that's for the best. But I got to be honest, man, that was the first time that I got to see Andrew Wiggins and Karl Anthony Towns live in person. And T-Wolves fans, you guys got to be pretty pumped right now. I'm going to be honest with you. There is no one that exciting on the Celtics. I realize that the Celtics are a pretty good team, and I love this team. It's one of my favorite Celtics teams. Well, not recently so much, but
last night.
It's a great Celtics team, and it's fun to root for. But if you're a Timberwolves fan, I mean, watching these guys play must be just so hopeful and so exciting. Wiggins had 40 points when I saw him. And he looked. I mean, he was like 6 for 8 from 3, and his jumper looked fantastic.
So he looked super impressive.
And then Anthony, Karl Towns here. I think earlier this year I actually compared him to Tim Duncan on this podcast. I'm actually going to take that back. He is more athletic than Tim Duncan, like significantly more athletic than Tim Duncan. So it was really fun to watch. Brooklyn actually ended up winning, believe it or not. So
that's a shocker. That's actually more shocking than anything.
I know. Trevor Booker actually looked like a competent NBA player. But outside of that, it was really cool seeing the T-Wolves live and those young guns for the first time. So I really enjoyed that.
Nice. Glad you got to do that. Glad you got to experience Brooklyn for all its
good
glory.
Barbecue. I had a lobster roll. Everything broke James's way last week, Greg.
Nice. I like how you had a lobster roll outside of Massachusetts.
I know. I was right in the water, right in the Red Hook neighborhood of Brooklyn for all those people. Shout out to Del Fonte's sandwich shop out in Red Hook. What up?
Sponsors.
Yeah. All right. Anyways, enough small talk, Greg. Let's get into it. We have quite a bit to cover this week, and I think we're going to start. I think we're going to start where we always start, and talk about the NFL this week. We had a couple surprising and interesting games that happened. The Dallas-Pittsburgh game was fantastic. The Broncos-Saints game was unbelievable, at least at the finish. And we have a lot to talk about today, but I think we're going to break out an old favorite. Just an old-town favorite, Greg, today. Most impressed, least impressed.
It's been a while.
The folks been clamoring for it.
Yeah, last week they got a new segment, James. They got a new segment with the guest host.
I know. What was it? How bad the refs fuck up or something like that?
WTF refs.
WTF refs. I don't hate that. I know. I actually don't hate that. But we're not here to talk about WTF refs, Greg. We're here to talk about most impressed, least impressed. So, out of all of the players, head coaches, units, teams, areas of the country, grand philosophies, big ideas, what are you most impressed with last week?
Well, James, a few things impressed me. Seattle's defense.
Sure. I don't want to talk about that, but sure.
Denver's field goal block for a 2-point return. But the thing that stood out to me is an offense unit that has just been rolling the past few weeks. They haven't won every week, but they've been picking up the big points. Talking about the Tennessee Titans.
The Titans, baby.
This offense has looked phenomenal. They put up 47 against Green Bay, which, Green Bay's defense is horrible. It's fine. But 47 is still impressive. This offense, though, let me just give you a few numbers here. I'm going to give the numbers. I'm going to be the number guy this week. Mariota had 295 yards passing, 4 touchdowns. DeMarco Murray had 17 rushes for 123 yards and a touchdown. And then Delanie Walker, 9 catches, 124 yards, 1 touchdown. That's just impressive.
That's pretty good, man.
That's just overall domination on the offensive side. You can't ask for anything better. They've put up 35-plus points the past 3 weeks. And I think the week before that, they were at least above 25. So everything's clicking right now for Tennessee and Mariota.
Yeah, Tennessee's looking like you actually have to pay attention to them in that division.
My sneaky AFC South pick.
It's looking better and better, man. The thing about the Texans is that the Texans continuously beat people in division, so it's going to make it a little bit difficult for the Titans to sneak in here. But I mean, 5-5 is nothing to shake a stick at right now, and that's a big win, here against the Packers. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, no, it is. I mean,
the Packers in that game only had 69 rush yards. I mean, they really just do not have anyone outside of Rodgers and Nelson at this point in terms of skill players.
No, I mean, even Ty Montgomery, he's trying to do his best back there, but he's not a running back by nature. He's just been thrown back there because Eddie Lacy gets hurt and keeps eating.
Yeah.
And Aaron Rodgers hasn't looked like Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, it's tough because, Rodgers is obviously clearly so talented, and clearly is one of the he's one of the best players in the entire league right now.
Yeah,
I have to keep going back to what I mentioned a few weeks ago, where he does not trust his offensive line or his skill players as much. So, you could even see it when he's kind of back there in the pocket. He's playing backyard football a lot of the time, and it's just not paying dividends for them right now. He'll be running around and or just kind of walking around, and even when there's no pressure, he'll still kind of just huck it off of his back foot because he's got such significant arm strength. I think it's just mechanics are off right now, and the skill players just aren't able to get open the way that some of the other guys are able to. Devontae Adams was the leading receiver for Green Bay, and Jordy Nelson. In terms of yardage at least, and then Jordy Nelson's right after. He just does not have a lot of people that he could spread the ball around to right now. Listen to these receivers right now. You have Devontae Adams, Randall Cobb, Richard Rodgers, Geronimo Allison, James Starks, Ty Montgomery. These are not the Packers of old.
I mean, Cobb's been good. He's just
sort of, yeah.
The offensive line is where it starts for this team.
Yeah, I agree.
They have been horrible. The past 2-3 years have completely shot Rodgers' confidence of any protection. He feels like he has to be on the move all the time, and he's not as good on the move. I mean, he used to be, but he's just not anymore.
Yeah.
He needs to be in the pocket. He's getting older. He's taking a lot more hits. I mean, they don't improve that line. I know the Packers are all about build from the draft, build from within, don't get many free agents. You got to go out and get some big offensive linemen that can actually protect your quarterback.
Yeah, I agree. We'll see what happens going forward with that. But I absolutely am 100% on board with the Tennessee Titans offense. Mariota with 4 touchdowns is huge. DeMarco Murray looks great. I mean, I think this is going to make the AFC South at least semi-interesting.
Yeah. Who's your most impressed for this week, though, James? Who impressed you coach-wise, player-wise, unit-wise?
It's tough, man, because I want to pick the Cowboys so bad, but I keep talking about the Cowboys. I'm all in on Dak and Zeke, and I honestly think that Ezekiel Elliott is an MVP candidate at this point.
Oh yeah, definitely.
He had 115 yards with 2 touchdowns. Actually, a really good point Bill Barnwell made on ESPN is that the Cowboys' offensive line as a whole should be considered an MVP candidate.
Yeah,
and I actually have to agree there. They give this rookie quarterback a huge amount of time to throw the ball, and they give Ezekiel Elliott some real running room. But even when he doesn't have a lot of room, Zeke is an unbelievable rusher.
He's phenomenal. He's gonna challenge that rookie rushing record by I believe it's Eric Dickerson that has it.
Yeah, I agree. But I'm going to actually go with the Chiefs. The Chiefs this year.
I'm going to talk about the Cowboys and Elliott, but I'm going to actually pick.
I have to. The Chiefs this year, right now, are 7-2. No one's talking about them right now. The Chiefs are 7-2 right now. and they're 2-1 this year after trailing by 14 points in a game. Okay, so they're 2-1 this year after trailing by 14 points in a game. The rest of the league is 2-51 in that same scenario. The Chiefs, for all their talk about not being able to push the ball downfield and make the big plays, they scored 17 points in the fourth quarter and came back and beat the Panthers on the road. That's a big win.
It is.
And with the Broncos continuously just pulling wins out of their ass, I don't know how they're doing it. I've ever seen it in my entire life. No team has pulled wins out of their ass like the Gary Kubiak-led Broncos of the last 2 years. The Chiefs need to find every way they can do everything they can to stay competitive with Oakland and Denver in that division. And they're doing a really good job of coming from behind. So I'm going to go most impressed as the Kansas City Chiefs this week. We're going to give them a little love. As the Chiefs believer I am.
Yeah, clearly. Plus, aren't they doing it with Nick Foles was starting this past week, and Jamal Charles is maybe done completely career-wise.
I know. Oh, it's so sad. And he's just such a talent too. That's really a bummer.
Killed my fantasy team.
Okay. Well,
luckily I took Ware. He's been pretty solid.
I weep for your loss. No, Alex Smith played. No, Alex Smith played this week.
I thought Foles was starting for some reason.
No, Alex Smith played. He didn't even play that well. He was 25 of 38 for 178 yards and an interception, no touchdowns, 4.7 yards per attempt or per.
He never plays fantastic. It's just he gets it done.
It really is mostly defense. And fumble recoveries.
Like yeah.
So
it's like the Vikings team, except the defense has now kind of failed them, and their offense still is stagnant.
Yeah, actually, that goes right into my least impressed. But why don't you go first, Greg? Actually,
it was a perfect leeway in for you, though.
All right, fine. I'll go least impressed. My least impressed is the Vikings. This team is kind of stagnant right now. People are going to look at Sam Bradford and say, "Oh, he went 31 for 40 with 307 yards and 2 touchdowns. Sam Bradford's not the problem." And those people would be wrong, Greg. I'm going to throw that out there real quick. They're just not explosive. They can't play anything. They have no defense. They played pretty well against the Washington offense. Their defense did at least.
Yeah, we won't say their full name.
They have no. I'm not going to say their full name. But they have no offense right now. I'm just not impressed with this Minnesota team. I got off the bandwagon pretty early. I've been picking against them the last 2 weeks, or last 3 weeks, I think. Because
I've been sticking with them. It's not a good call.
The thing is, the defense can't score 2 touchdowns every game. That's just a fact. The defense can't score 2 touchdowns every game.
It's not a normal habit.
And if 20 points is where you're topping out as an offense in terms of what you can score, that's not going to get it done. Especially against this Redskins team who are all of a sudden in this pretty competitive division in the NFC East here. Yeah. So my least impressed is the Vikings as a whole.
Makes sense. Makes complete sense. I mean, it was their division to have, and it's just been a landslide since.
Right.
Started with the Eagles. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, you're right.
Who's your least impressed? My least impressed this week. It's not going to make you happy, James. But you know what? It's not about making you happy all the time. So I know you're back. I'm excited that you're back. But we couldn't talk about the Patriots in most impressed because they didn't win, if you call it the Sunday night game. But I'm not going to even put it on Brady. I'm not putting it on their offense. I'm putting it on their offensive coordinator. Josh McDaniels, least impressed. I mean, mainly for that fourth quarter goal line play calling. You try to sneak rush with Brady with 30-something seconds left. Fine. Do it one time, whatever. Next 3 times, you have one of the, if not the biggest running back in the league who's known for just making contact and getting another 2.5 yards per carry. They talked about it earlier in the night, in the game.
Yeah.
Give him the ball 3 straight times. If he doesn't get in, nobody's going to question you. But no. Instead, they tried running once. Cam Chancellor made a great play on the goal line to stop him. Then they did, I guess it was another attempt at a sneak rush with Brady, which he fumbled. But I'm not going to. I still put that on McDaniels. And then finally, that last play that caused a huge controversy because everybody was pass interference. But when you look at it, I don't know if you agree. Basically, it was Gronk and Cam Chancellor going at it fairly equal, if anything, even more Gronk of driving him backwards. So it was an iffy call. You couldn't make it in that situation no matter what, unless it was blatantly on one guy or the other. But
yeah,
least impressive is going to be Josh McDaniels. I mean, this is why he's not a head coach, folks. This is why he didn't work out in Denver with Tebow.
For me, you could actually even argue that Matt Patricia should be least impressed on the defensive side. That defense was so bad. And I think that we've got a real problem as any Patriots fans who are listening out there. There's a real problem with this defense. Russell Wilson had 348 yards and 3 touchdowns, and that was actually kind of selling short what he did. I mean, he had all the time in the world. The Patriots were only rushing 2 for some reason for most of the game. And Doug Baldwin, just kind of ran wild. They've got no defense. They have the Seahawks could do whatever they wanted the entire game. So I'm unsurprised at that loss. I don't really know where we go from here, where we're going to find a pass rush at this point in the season. You traded away the one guy that had a potential for it on this team, and like you're kind of putting all your eggs in the Jamal Sheard basket, which is a little tough right now. I got to be honest with you.
Who?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I can't put it on Patricia. The defense isn't that great to begin with. They have a lot of guys that on other teams may not even be, on the field as much as they are now.
Yeah, but
I think I talked about this with Jewett last week. Butler's not a number 1 corner. He's a number 2, very good number 2, but I don't think he's a solid number 1 shutdown guy. But Patricia does what he can with what he has. Belichick just keeps taking pieces here and there that are good and moving them away for picks later in life.
I guess it just bothers me. It's just like, get creative at least a little bit. Like, don't rush 2 and play prevent defense the entire time, because Russell Wilson's going to pick you apart. That's the one thing that Russell Wilson excels at, is when he's got time. I don't know. I could have picked anything from that game and said it was least impressed for me on the Patriots side.
I'm also going to say least impressed Bill Belichick's hat.
I don't really. His fashion sense is the last thing on my mind as to what bothers me about him.
He just needs to. He apparently just has this need to cut anything that he owns.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
See what his underwear looks like.
for multiple reasons.
Yeah.
All right. A couple things that stuck out to me this week is I have to start paying attention to teams that I didn't really ever consider going into the season, or at least at the early part of the season. Like, do I really have to pay attention to the Ravens right now?
No.
I have to pay attention to the fucking Dolphins. Like, is this for real?
Kind of. The Dolphins have looked pretty good.
They've won like 4 in a row right now. I have to pay attention to these teams. So instead of paying attention to like the Cardinals and the Bengals, I have to pay attention to the Dolphins and the Ravens, and I don't know. This is
a nice little change, I guess.
I guess, but I don't know.
The Patriots, who are just going to basically win every other game, except maybe Denver might give them a challenge, but their schedule the rest of the way is pretty soft.
I already have nightmares about that Denver game. What ridiculous player the Denver Broncos going to win this stupid game out of? God, can you even believe this? How do the Broncos keep winning these games? I just don't understand it. How do the Broncos keep winning these games?
I don't know, but my prediction for the Patriots-Denver game is Denver can win it off a Tom Brady sack, but he's going to fumble it. It's going to kick off his foot, skyrocket into the air towards the end zone like a punt somehow, and Von Miller's going to catch it and dance.
Yeah, I'm not surprised about any of that.
That's basically what I figure will happen.
All right, cool. Anything else you want to touch on before we go into picks this week?
I think that, if anything, the 2 stories that kind of came out right before we started this podcast, the Seahawks released Christine Michael, who was supposed to be like one of the big backs this year for Seattle. Basically done nothing. CJ Prosise is now going to be like their top back until Thomas Rawls comes back. So kind of surprising, especially on a random Tuesday. Didn't think he would just get rid of he's kind of a big back. You would think, if anything, keep him for third and short situations.
Yeah, I would agree. I don't know what's going on with the Seattle. Are they on a bye right now? Is that why they're doing this?
No, they have a Philly going to Seattle this week. It's one of our games we're picking.
Oh, right. You're right.
But I don't know. A lot of teams I feel like are getting rid of their running backs randomly throughout this year. Like a few weeks ago, the Ravens got rid of Forsett. So it's just an odd year. I feel like more known players are getting cut randomly throughout the year.
That's true. The last thing that I want to bring up before we actually get into these picks too, is my fantasy team, Greg. I got to be honest with you right now. So I started off 0-5. No, listen. I started off 0-5, and I've gone on a just an absolute tear, and brought it back to 500. I've gone 5-0 in the last few weeks. So I think that at this point, the only real question is who will be playing me in the 30 for 30 about this team. And I'm open to all suggestions. So go ahead and write on Facebook and Twitter to @SportsStance, who should be playing me.
I mean, you know my pick.
Game. I don't know your pick. No, who's your pick?
Mac Miller.
No. See,
Uncanny.
Wrong. I need someone who looks a little bit more like me. Like 6'2", jacked, nice jawline, piercing blue eyes.
We're not talking about your NBA 2K17 player. We're talking about you.
What's the difference? I don't really. The lines between reality and my NBA 2K player have been blurred.
Okay, that makes sense.
Let's get into these picks this week, Greg. We have a full slate this week. A couple interesting games happening, a few division games. Not a lot of over 500 teams, but we're going to pick a few games. And starting with the early slate here, this week at 1 o'clock, we have the Baltimore Ravens going into Arlington and playing the Dallas Cowboys. The 5-4 Ravens are 7-point underdogs against the 8-1 Cowboys, Greg. Tony Romo came out with a statement saying that he's totally fine with Dak
Completely
Prescott.
Fine.
Oh, totally. He's like so fine with Dak Prescott.
I have the exact quote of how fine he is if you want to hear it.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Basically, he said, getting hurt when you feel like you have the best team you've had was a soul-crushing moment for me.
Yeah.
It's a dark place. Probably the darkest it's ever been.
Oh, the darkest.
I hated anything. I still want to play and compete, but Dak deserves to be our starter right now.
Yeah. Oh, R.I.P. Tony Romo. He had a good career, man.
Yeah.
I'm really excited.
Good luck with the Browns next year.
I'm really excited for you to be. Oh my God! Don't even right now. That I can't believe you just said that because that's totally happening.
Yep.
Okay, Greg. So do you think the Ravens go into Arlington and put a stop to the Dak magic, or do you think the Cowboys keep rolling and Ezekiel Elliott and Prescott carry them to a 9-1 record? Your thoughts?
I mean, I kept thinking somebody has to beat this Dallas team. I don't know when it's going to happen, where. I've picked against them a few weeks in a row now, just waiting for it to be right and turn in my favor. It hasn't. So I'm just going to go, reverse it. I need Dallas to lose because I'm an Eagles fan, but I'm going to go with them this week because the Ravens aren't as good as the Steelers. I know they beat them, but I just don't overall think they're as good as them. And Dallas beats the Steelers, so, by that common nature sense, Cowboys.
I'm also going with the Cowboys. I mean, this is no surprise to anybody who's been listening to the podcast, but I just think that whenever you have something special like this happening, you have to keep riding it. And I'm going to ride the Cowboys until they prove otherwise. I don't think that they're actually going to cover the spread. I think that the Ravens are going to make this pretty close. The Ravens are kind of like the drag it down to our level team where it's like, oh, Ezekiel Elliott will get 69 yards on like 30 carries and like, it's going to be like a 19-16 type game, but the Ravens will make it close. The Cowboys will still win.
Yeah, probably a good call there.
Cool. Okay, moving on. We also have Tennessee, 5-5 Titans going into Indianapolis, the 4-5 Colts. Indy's favored by 3 points right now. They're at home, so that more or less means that it's a pick 'em right now between how good these two teams are. Do you think the Titans are for real, Greg, and they're going to go into Indianapolis and have a statement win here against the Colts, or do you think the Colts at home right the ship against the division rival Titans?
I think with how this offense is rolling right now, Indy doesn't have a defense that's going to stop them. So Tennessee's going to put up the points. Their defense has been playing pretty well. Andrew Luck, as good as he is, just hasn't looked like the Andrew Luck from his first year or two for some reason. So by that, I'm going to go with Tennessee. I think they just keep rolling, and Mariota gets another game under his belt that shows just how good he's becoming.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Colts right now on this one. I think the Titans are a good young team, and I think that DeMarco Murray is an X factor for them. I think at home, dome team, the Colts playing against the Titans, I think that is where I think that means something. the Titans don't have well. The Titans have a decent defense, but I think that Andrew Luck at home will beat up on this Titans defense. A dome team playing at home matters to me. I don't know why. It's just kind of been ingrained in my skull for some reason.
Always going to go with like the Saints and Lions and all those teams.
I kind of do sometimes. I go to the Falcons whenever they're at home. Okay, moving on to the afternoon games. Those are the two games we're picking from the early slate. The afternoon games. We have the Eagles against the Seahawks playing in Seattle. Seattle's favored by 6.5 points. So Greg, your Eagles need a touchdown to beat the spread here. But Greg, do you think the 5-4 Eagles are going to come into CenturyLink Field and win here, or do you think that the Seahawks have kind of gained momentum against the Patriots and they beat up on one of the best defenses in football?
Well, as much as it pains me, I'm going to have to go with Seattle here, just because one, Seattle's looked good the past few weeks. Big statement game against the Patriots. The only thing you got to worry about is traveling back from the East Coast back to the West Coast after a late night game, emotional victory, all those things, went into my head with this thought, but still the defense has been looking good. And I think Carson Wentz has one of his rougher games as a rookie. I do think it might end up being closer than the spread is saying. I'm going to give it to I'm going to say it's probably going to be like how you thought the Dallas Ravens game is going to go, except I'm going to be like 24-21 type range. And but I'm going to go Seattle.
That makes sense. It's a tough defense for a rookie quarterback to go against, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to go ahead with the Seahawks as well. I think that right now there's 3 teams in the NFL that are kind of head and shoulders above the other teams. I think that's Dallas, Seattle, and New England.
I'd put Oakland in there too.
I don't know. I give me like a big signature win for Oakland. Who is Oakland beat?
Denver.
I know that they're 7-2. Yeah, they beat Denver.
That was like probably the biggest signature one right now.
I guess that's true. They beat the Saints, Titans, Ravens, Chargers, Jaguars, Bucks, and Denver. It really has only been Denver. Give me something like if they win this week, it's against Houston. Not really. I don't care. I don't know.
They're still 6-3. They're still decent.
I'm hesitant to put Oakland in that category. I really think they haven't been tested yet as much. So I'm going to go. I really think it should be Dallas, Seattle, New England, and the top. I think right underneath that, I think you have Oakland, Denver, Kansas City, actually all in the same division, which is kind of funny. And even Pittsburgh looks good at some point too.
Might have to put the Giants in there too because they're sneaking up at 6-3. I think they're.
I can't put the Giants in there. I don't know. They just like none of their games are that inspiring in terms of wins. I don't know. Whatever.
They're still winning.
Maybe, yeah, but I wouldn't put the Texans are 6-3 too. Would you put them in there?
No, because the Texans don't have a quarterback that actually can win. We've seen Eli win 2 Super Bowls. We know he can do it when it matters. Where Brock basically butt fumbles.
I don't agree with that, but if you want to put the Giants in there, feel free. Okay, cool. We're gonna go on to the Sunday night game, NBC primetime. Packers at Redskins in FedEx Field. Packers are 4-5. Washington's 5-3 and 1, and then Washington's favored by 2.5 points in this game. I know, right? Greg, do you think the Packers' woes continue out in Landover, or do you think that Aaron Rodgers figures it out against this Redskins defense?
I think Washington takes it. Green Bay and the NFC North as a whole, terrible, just awful. I saw a stat the other day that I think it's in the past 3 weeks. They're combined 2 wins, and I think that would make it 9 losses, something like that, or whatever it adds up to without buys and all that. They have 2 wins as a conference in the past 3 weeks, and both of them games against the Vikings. One by the Bears, one by the Lions. So unless they're beating each other, they're not beating anybody.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I'm taking Green Bay in this scenario for a couple reasons. I do not think that the Redskins right now can play against like a really legitimately good quarterback. The reason being, their wins are against the Giants, the Browns, the Ravens, the Eagles, and the Vikings. I don't think any of those have like truly elite quarterbacks.
Yeah.
where the losses have come against the Steelers, the Cowboys, and the Lions, and they tied against the Bengals. Not saying that Matthew Stafford and Dak Prescott are quote-unquote elite yet, but I think Aaron Rodgers coming in, especially coming off a loss, I think the Packers are going to try to figure it out here against the Redskins. Okay, cool.
I can see your logic.
Finally, we have the Monday night game. This one's a kind of wild one because they're playing in Mexico City. Very cool. Texans against the Raiders. The 6-3 Texans playing the 7-2 Raiders. Oakland's favored by 5.5 points in this game. So, Greg, do you think that Derek Carr continues to look like the MVP candidate against a crappy Texans defense, or do you think that Houston finally notches a win out of Lucas Oil Stadium?
I think Oakland takes it. It's going to be a fun game to watch in general. See, I can get behind having games in like Mexico City and like if you want to have them in Canada, I'm fine with those. Don't go to England. But, I think Mexico City will be good. It'll be fun, exciting. Probably going to get a big crowd for that. Probably sold out would be my guess. Derek Carr, I think, and the Houston offense the Oakland offense can do work against the Houston defense. They haven't been as stout since JJ left. And we know the Houston offense isn't that great with Brock. So I think Oakland takes it, moves to 8-2, and gets another nice win on their belt and gets used to playing out in the desert heat and the nice sun for when they move to Vegas finally.
I'm also going Oakland here. I just don't see the Texans as a legitimate threat to anyone right now. I think that they're their whole idea and mantra right now is just to beat up on the divisional opponents, and that should get them into the playoffs right now. For example, all of their wins pretty much, they've got wins against the Bears and the Chiefs, but mostly it's against the Titans, the Colts, the Jaguars. If they can just kind of
beating up on their conference, basically.
Just beat up on your conference, man, and then hope the rest of it takes care of itself, especially when the rest of your conference is like right around 500. Yeah, I think that's kind of the Texans' MO right now. So going into a different environment against an elite offense, I don't think that the Texans are going to be able to hold up under that scrutiny. So I'm also going with the Raiders in this sense.
I think we should have the NFC North and the AFC South just do a round robin game wise, and whoever the top two are at the end of it get to move on to the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree.
By the way, just so you know, I have our updated records for our picks before we get to our guest picks. I've
been doing pretty well, huh?
Yeah, you've made a nice comeback. Right now, it stands that I am 26, 25-1 because we both have that tie on our record, just like teams in the NFL. This is dumb.
I hate it.
You're 29, 22-1.
Hey.
Yeah, you got a nice little lead on me. Jewett is now on air because he's made multiple picks. Didn't go so well the first time he did our guest picks. He was 1-2, but last week he improved. He's 3-5, so not terrible.
All right,
his picks are doing great. They're 22-10 right now.
Jeez, hey, there you go. That means that everyone else who comes on the show knows more about football than us, which is exciting.
And then, so now that we're done with our picks, we probably should get into our guest picks. Probably a good idea since they were nice enough to record.
Oh yeah, we forgot to do that in the beginning. Okay, well let's get into it then.
That's why I figured I'd do it now. So this week we got the people over at the Fast Forward Rewind podcast. You can find them on Twitter by typing that into your search bar. We have Adam doing it for us. So let's take a listen to Adam's picks for the week.
All right, very cool, Adam.
Nice job, Adam. Going with his hometown Steelers. Or his favorite team, Steelers. I don't know if he's from Pittsburgh.
I want to go on record and say that I think it's disgusting when people blatantly talk about how much their favorite team biases their picks. I think that any podcast host who is a blatant homer about their team should really be banned from podcasting as a whole.
Yeah, completely.
So I'm just disgusted.
It's even worse with TV personalities. Don't let me see your face and then tell me how much you love your home team, your favorite team, your biased team. And basically, I'm looking at you, Skip Bayless. Gross. And only you.
All right, let's get into why don't we get into college football, man? This is starting to get really exciting on this end.
It is. It's getting good. It's getting nice. It's making me forget about how bad the Notre Dame team has been this year. So it's nice to look at the other teams and see some of their souls get crushed.
You were legitimately the only person who's thinking about Notre Dame right now. It's kind of amazing.
My brother is. He's going to the game this weekend for the first time ever. He's getting to go to South Bend.
That's exciting. You too are the only people who are thinking about Notre Dame at all.
Yeah, that's probably true.
The biggest thing coming out of this weekend is that the 2, 3, and 4 teams all lost, Greg. They lost. They're losers.
All in weird ways too. Late field goals. Teams they were supposed to crush. It was just bad. First time since 1985.
That all these teams have lost.
Yeah, both times though. Michigan was number 2, which I thought was kind of weird.
Yeah, I guess that is a little interesting. What are your biggest takeaways coming out of this weekend of college football, Greg?
I mean, I'm curious to see what the college football playoffs are going to look like after this. It's going to be a huge mix-up. The Pac-12 or whatever it is, probably not going to have anybody represented now because Washington was probably their only hope in that conference. It was weak enough as it was that it was hard for them to even get in the top 4. Then you have Michigan, Ohio State, and potentially Penn State now, who one of them could, or two of them could even end up in the playoffs. Alabama's most likely going to end up there unless Auburn surprises everybody and beats them. And then who's Clemson? Clemson still has a chance. Clemson, I still think, makes it because they basically control their own destiny. Louisville has the head-to-head loss. But it's going to be exciting. These final few weeks are now a lot more interesting with all these teams taking a loss, especially all on the same weekend.
Yeah, it is really interesting. I'm going to be interested to see if Michigan continues to be in there. Right now, their current ranking is number 4. So I don't know if they're actually going to be in the college football, playoffs. That's the AP Top 25. They haven't beaten anybody of note, and they just lost to Iowa. So that's pretty tough. But it's more interesting, I guess, when they're in there. So that's going to be biased. A couple of fun things. A couple of fun things that I wanted to throw out there, Greg. Things that were going on in 1984.
Ooh.
1985 in sports. Kansas City Royals were your World Series champions behind the bat of George Brett. Your San Francisco 49ers were Super Bowl champions. Your Los Angeles Lakers were NBA champions. The Magic Johnson era Showtime Lakers.
Good
and
team.
The Edmonton Oilers, the Wayne Gretzky led Edmonton Oilers, were your Stanley Cup champions.
I think that's probably the last time a Canada team won the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, for real. Oklahoma won the NCAA football championship, and Villanova won the basketball championship. And Greg, during this time in 1985, a song in America was the Miami Vice theme song. Oh boy, oh god,
that's great.
Right, that was the number 1 fucking song. Get it together, 1985.
Yeah, we're one to talk. Our generation has some weird number 1 hits.
What's the number 1 song right now? Let's see what the 2. Let's check it out. This is real time podcasting.
That like Juju on that beat, because that song I've heard like everywhere lately.
I don't know what you're talking about right now. I gotta be honest with you. We're gonna. What do we check? Billboards? Oh, Black Beatles by Ray Shremmerd. I actually like Black Beatles. That's a good song.
All right. I can accept that one.
I approve. A couple songs though during 1985 that were number 1. Madonna's "Like a Virgin," George Michael's "Careless Whisper," REO Speedwagon's "Can't Fight This Feeling."
Good.
Madonna, "Crazy for You." Great year for Madonna. Got to be honest with you. Bryan Adams' "Heaven." Oh, that's a great song.
Good song.
Your Shafir's "Shout." Let's see here. Huey Lewis, "Power of Love." Take On Me.
I thoroughly enjoyed that song, by the way.
Take On Me was up there. Starship, "We Built the City," and Mr. Broken Wings. So not a bad year, 1985 for music.
Yeah, pretty good outside of Miami Vice.
I can't believe that was the number 1 song in the country. The Miami Vice theme song. What the fuck? Like, who is listening?
Have you ever heard of it? Have you ever heard that theme song?
I don't know if I've ever heard that theme song. I'll actually put it on YouTube and see if I got it.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what the rankings are. It's funny that we're actually putting this on right now.
Wait, is the Miami Vice one the saxophone one where it's like do 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 or no?
I don't know. Yeah, I actually do, which is kind of weird, especially considering that.
Rendition.
That rendition. Yeah. I don't know if you're gonna be.
This is great live podcasting.
Let's hear this right now. Oh wait, hold on. Wait, whoops. Hold on. Let's see if they got it.
How loud this is in my ears.
You hear it?
No.
You don't hear it?
Nope.
I'm playing it on YouTube. That's weird. I guess it must not let you. I guess it must not let you play this on Google Hangouts. Not to give an idea.
Everything plugged in. That's why. Here, I'll try to find it. You keep talking sports. I'll find it.
Well, I'm listening to it now. I can't believe this is the #1 theme song. There's just no way this is the #1 theme song or the #1 song in America. There's just no chance. This is wrong. Okay, let's not waste too much more time finding that. Anything else you want to talk about college football before we kind of move on?
I mean, not too much. I mean, just
Do you think that anyone's gonna? Go ahead.
My hope is that somehow Louisville makes it in, that Alabama makes it in at #1, Louisville makes it in at #4 somehow, because I really just want to see Lamar Jackson go against that Alabama defense. It's really all I want to see.
Be honest with me. Do you think that anybody is going to win the championship outside of Alabama?
Yes, because I feel like when it gets to the Final Four, it's weird matchups. You saw 2 years ago Ohio State beating Alabama. It just takes one good game and one bad game. Alabama, yeah, the SEC is good. But I feel like Alabama every year gets in like kind of just on the whole reputation of their Alabama. But a lot of their games I feel like aren't that hard. So when they finally get to go against a good team, I think it could surprise them, get a little kick in the mouth. I mean, they had some hard games last year, except Michigan State they completely blew out in the college playoffs. But Clemson, it was close. I mean, Clemson almost took them down.
I just don't see them beating. I don't see anybody beating Alabama right now. Just be totally honest with you. Whoever ends up going into the college football playoffs. So we'll see what happens. Okay, cool. Moving on, Greg. We're going to head over to the NBA. And, you know, I have to go ahead and give you guys props. I was proud of you and Jewett. You guys put on your game faces and you talked about the NBA. And there was some real legitimate talk in there. And you know what? You held your own, and I liked it. And
I got to give credit to Steph Curry for breaking a record. It really helped me out picking topics.
That was huge because right now we're in the middle of November and talking about the NBA, especially with all the goings on in you know, football, both college and professional, and then, you know, the election. The NBA is taking a real back seat, which is a shame, Greg, because things are really happening right now. The first thing I want to talk about is on the East. A team that has really shocked me right now is the Atlanta Hawks.
Yeah, that is a shock. So the fact that out of any team, that's who we're going to talk about.
I know, it's crazy. So going into the season, I was really skeptical of a couple things. The first thing was Dwight Howard's fit next to Paul Millsap. Paul Millsap is a really, I think he was underrated, the best player on the Hawks last year, even though Al Horford got kind of the headlines because he was an impending free agent. And he's always
Millsap's very good.
Millsap is very good, and when we watch this guy play, he's got almost like a similar body to LeBron James. He's slightly slower and a little bit bigger.
Yeah, it just doesn't have that quick agility that LeBron does.
Right, but he's still so athletic, and he's just got like the kind of the same body type. So ever since Horford was kind of switched out with Dwight Howard, these first 9 games, Paul Millsap has looked great. I mean, he's got 16 points and 7.5 rebounds. With 4 assists per game.
Solid stat line.
I think the big story right now, the other question coming in was how is Dwight Howard going to fit next to Paul Millsap, and how were the Hawks going to transition, giving the reins over to Dennis Schroeder, their point guard, who previously...
It's still a hard time believing that.
Yeah, I mean, he previously just had not played very much, you know? I mean, in the last couple of years that Schroeder had played, I think his minutes per game, I can actually kind of find that out here. Yeah, he had never averaged more than 20 minutes per game. And they were handing over the reins of this offense to him. And so far, he's you know, delivered. He's got 16 points, 6 assists, and he's had a pretty good year. But I think the real story coming out of this is Dwight Howard's looked great. You know, he hasn't kind of lit it up in terms of the stat line. He's got 15 points and 12 rebounds per game. He's almost averaging 2 blocks per game. It's his PER. He's just being so efficient and picking his spots. He's at 24 for a PER, which is you know, as high as you're going to get Dwight Howard at this stage in his career. So I think the Atlanta Hawks at 7-2 are kind of making me rethink the Eastern Conference power rankings going forward.
Yeah, you definitely have to. I mean, Dwight Howard, kind of a resurgent season. Past few years, he's been kind of known as a team cancer, just in the locker room, just kind of draining everybody's enthusiasm, wanting to play, being around him, getting him involved. And finally turning it around. But maybe it's the whole back at home in Atlanta, where he feels comfortable. Maybe it's the team, actually embracing him. Who knows what it is? But, he's putting up numbers. He's looking good. He's getting kind of, back involved defensively, as you said, with the 2 blocks. And, I like it. He could be one of those people candidate-wise for most improved, because he hasn't had great years the past few years. And if he keeps it up, I mean, he could potentially be an all-star in the East because, Andre Drummond.
There's not a lot of centers out there.
Yeah, Andre Drummond is like your big guy in the East right now, and Whiteside maybe, and then outside that, Schroeder, has been impressive. I think it's just Schroeder's hair, I think, is what made me doubt him. It's that weird hair with the partly highlighted. It just makes no sense. And I think that's why I've always doubted him. But he's proven me wrong. He's proven that people with highlighted hair in random spots on your head can play basketball.
Yeah, that's true. On the outside here, we also have a couple interesting stories in the East. Cleveland obviously looks fantastic. Toronto has picked up right where they left off. Look very good at 6-3, which is pretty cool. Their defense again is going to be their hallmark. And then the Bulls have sort of figured it out a little bit, at least in this early part of the season.
They got good players. I mean,
they're a professional basketball team, and I think that there's a lot to be said about that. Especially when you're trying to get some of these new pieces to fit in together. Having just a professional basketball team is huge. So I think that that's not going to hold up necessarily, but the Bulls are very cool.
Getting Rajon Rondo to look like a normal person and player, always a good sign.
Yeah, exactly. Over in the West, you have some interesting things happening as well. So the Clippers are up atop at 10-1, and their bench has looked excellent.
Yeah,
the Clippers bench has really been what's kind of kept them in this game, or in this, at this top spot here. And then the Warriors, 8-2, and I think that I don't know if we kind of thought about the way that the Warriors are going to win these games, but they're going to need to really legitimately outscore everybody. They've got the number 1 offense in the entire NBA right now in terms of points per game at 116 points per game. But that comes at a price. They're also letting up a league high 108.2 points per game.
They're so bad on defense.
Yeah, it's not actually a league high, but in terms of the teams that are in the top 8 of the West and the East, the Warriors are letting up the most points per game. Surprisingly, right behind them, the Boston Celtics. We don't need to talk about that right now.
What's going on there?
But and at least in terms of the West, the closest people behind them are in the top 8 are the Los Angeles Lakers, who are starting 4 rookies. So,
dude, sucky player, good coach.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, it's going to be a new segment we're going to do at some point. Sucky player, good coach.
Sucky player, good coach.
Yeah.
It actually is genuinely really interesting to see this go down. The Warriors are going to have to try to figure this out.
Can you transfer a coach?
How are they going to protect the rim?
Because I think
can you transfer coach of the year awards?
Yeah, I think the committee needs to go back and relook at the Warriors' record last year. I think they'll realize that it was actually Luke Walton that was the reason.
Oh my
Steve Kerr has nothing to do with it.
If you told me 5 years ago that we talking about Luke Walton as a potential coach of the year candidate, I just would have laughed right in your face. So that's what's happening in the association right now. I think the other thing that we really need to keep an eye on is the Russell Westbrook averaging a triple-double watch right now. Russell Westbrook right now. I want you to just sit down for these numbers right now, Greg. Russell Westbrook is averaging. Let me stand up
first.
Yeah.
All right.
So Russell Westbrook is averaging 32 points, 9.7 rebounds, and 9.9 assists.
I mean, when there's not many other players on the team, your stats are going to look good, but still, that's just so good.
I don't care. Oh, my God, dude. What are you doing?
I mean, could you imagine if he actually averages a triple-double?
Oh, my God. I can't. No, I
People
can't
would go nuts.
imagine it. He's taking a lot of shots.
Dude, on top of his fire commercial for Nike, I mean, the guy's just having a great year so far.
I do love that commercial.
It's
I gotta
so
be honest
good.
with you. Yeah, he's going to be averaging. Not only is he averaging like basically a triple double, but he's also averaging it with 32 points. I mean, that's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's
cool, man.
He just looks so good. It's just he's looked great in some games, and then other games you're like, how many shots did he take? That's still fine. He got like a triple double, so we'll forgive him.
Yeah, I don't care almost. All right, man. That's pretty cool. Still. Oh, 100%. Anything else that you want to talk about in the association before we kind of get out of here?
One quick thing. Have you seen all these mannequin challenges that have been going on?
I have, and I'm done.
Yeah, well, just in general, found them kind of. Some of them are actually kind of like impressive, like the gymnast ones that I've seen. But this involves basketball. Don't worry. Did you see the Sixers one from the other day?
No.
So they got like a bunch of people in like one of the suites during a game to do it, but Allen Iverson was there, and you know Allen Iverson's. We talking about practice?
Yeah.
Well, he should have gone to the practice for this challenge because everybody else still as can be. Nobody's moving. He's being still for like the first 10 seconds of the video, and he has like his hand in the air, and then all of a sudden he just like kind of just like goes screw it and just starts moving his hand and kind of like looking around, and everybody else is still doing the pose. And people are like right in his face, probably being like, "What are you doing?"
That's like the least surprising thing ever is that Allen Iverson just like didn't give a shit about it.
It was just fantastic. But I was just like, it's great.
I love every quote unquote so Allen Iverson. I love that.
Everything. I was hearing I was listening to actually Talk Radio earlier, and they were talking about how Allen Iverson, because of this whole Phil Jackson saying LeBron's posse thing.
Yeah.
But they were talking about how Allen Iverson used to roll with like 53 guys deep. And just you'd have like 8 guys on the injured reserve just to replace, just in case one of his guys went down. And he would just go out and just buy them everything they wanted, and that's probably why he's bankrupt now.
Allen Iverson's a champ. I don't care what anybody says.
It doesn't matter. Number one.
All right, man. Anything else before we want to kind of wrap it up today?
I don't think so. I mean, I got the Miami Vice theme song. So
okay, well. Maybe you can use that to play us out, after this episode's all over.
How is this the number one song?
I'm not even kidding, Greg. It was like this for like 3 minutes. It doesn't change. There's no lyrics or anything. Like this is the song. I don't know.
Before we get copyrighted, I'll just stop it there. But how is that number one?
I have no idea. You got me.
So bad. Oh.
Yeah. Okay, man. Well, so from all of us here at the Sports Stands, I think we can kind of bring this thing in for a close.
Yeah, bring it for a landing.
Good episode, man. I thought that it was good. We got back to we picked up right where we left off, which is beautiful.
Never missed a beat. It's like you never left.
So from all of us here, man, at the Sports Stands, everybody who is on the line with us now, all of our producers, all of our reel-to-reel specialists, we're actually putting this on tape. All the people, all the directors, all the investors, everybody who kind of makes this thing happen. Thank you for listening, this audience, and I'll see you guys next week.
Yeah, and to everybody that put this on Vine, it's going down, but we're still putting it out there. So you can check out like our next 1,000 Vines will be this show in 6-second segments. So it'll be fantastic. And it's the people, the interns that make it happen.
R.I.P. Vine, and we'll talk to you guys next week.
Yeah, talk to you guys next week. And if you miss us after this episode, you can go check us out over on the Crossover Podcast because we're going to be doing guest picks for them this week. So check it out.
All right, cool.
Yeah, all right. So now I'll cut this all out, obviously. We'll just do – so do you still have the spreads in front of you?
I got to get them real quick. Hold on.
All right.
We're gonna do the same ones that we picked.
Yeah, but we'll just do these quicker. We won't give reasons really. We'll just go. So in the Philly-Seattle game, the spread is Seattle. You can just do that part. We can first be like, hey guys, this is Greg and James from the Sports Dance Podcast. We were asked to do guest picks. Here are our 5 games, and here are our picks, and go into it. And we'll just be like, expect Philly to cover the spread or whatever, or all that stuff.
Okay.
Should take us 3 or 4.
You want to start?
You can start it. You can go. This is James, and I'll go Greg, and then we can just go on from there. So it's the crossover podcast. In case you happen to say it at all.
Okay, you ready?
Yep.
Hey, crossover podcast fans. This is James
and Greg.
And we're the hosts of the Sports Stance Podcast. It's a weekly podcast, all things sports, whether that's NFL, NBA, MLB, college football, basketball, whatever it might end up being, we'll cover it. And we got asked today by the guys over the Crossover Sports Podcast to come in and take a couple picks and bet against the spreads for you guys. So
it's one of those things that we do. We just give flat out winners on ours, but we're going to do the spread for you guys because we like you.
Yeah, a little taste, a little wet the beak for you guys, which is exciting. So why don't we just go ahead and get right into it, Greg? We're going to talk about the early slate games. First, right now we have the Ravens at the Cowboys in Arlington. Dallas is favored by 7 points, Greg. What do you think is going to happen this week?
I don't think Dallas covers. I think Baltimore, takes it. Just in general, don't think it's going to be a 7-point touchdown win. We talked about this in our other show. It's going to be like 1916. So,
Raven on that 7-point line gives credence to.
All right,
games. So we're looking at the Titans against the Colts into Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis. Right to me, Greg. But what do you think is going to happen here?
I actually think Tennessee wins flat out.
Yeah, I actually went with the Colts in this one too. So Greg is going Tennessee, and I'm going all right, cool. Going forward, I think that the next one that we had picked out was going to be Philadelphia, Seattle. Eagles are 5-4 going into CenturyLink Field in Seattle. Seahawks are favored by 6.5 points, man. That means that your Eagles, Greg, need to get a touchdown to beat this spread. So do you think the Eagles take it, or do you think that the Seahawks cover?
I think Carson Wentz has a terrible game. I think Seattle covers the spread.
I'm right there with you, man. I think this is a tough defense for the rookie quarterback to go in and play. A hostile environment. I'm going to go Seattle covering this game as well. Sunday night, we're looking at Packers-Redskins. Green Bay going into Landover, and the Washington Redskins are favored by 2.5 points. Greg, do you think that the Packers will win by that field goal and cover, or do you think that the Redskins go ahead and beat the spread here?
I think the Redskins beat the spread. We've seen Green Bay's defense and what they can do. 47 points given up last week. I don't think Aaron Rodgers can keep up with that. I think it's just going to be Redskins all day, so I think they cover.
I differ with you here on this one, Greg. I'm going to go ahead with the Packers. I think the Packers win outright in this game. I just don't think that the Redskins have played a good enough quarterback yet. And then Aaron Rodgers is going to kind of come in and right some of the wrongs that he had last week. So I think it's going to be a good game, though.
Somebody's got faith in Aaron.
Someone's got a faith in Aaron. You got it. That's me. I'll put myself in that corner. I don't care. Last one we're going to pick today is going to be the Texans against the Raiders. The 6-3 Texans and the 7-2 Raiders are both going on the road to Mexico City, baby. Estadio Azteca, Oklahoma. Yeah, you're welcome. Gotta be honest. Crossover and Sports Stance fans, you guys are welcome for that pronunciation. Oakland, is favored by 5.5 points against the Texans. So, Greg, do you think that Houston comes in and makes this a close game? Or do you think the Raiders are going to go ahead and beat that spread?
In the good old game of football Americano, I believe the Raiders are going to cover the spread. Definitely
unbelievable accent, by the way.
Thank you. That was my pride in Spanish classes growing up.
I'm right there with you, man. I think that the Raiders are going to make this kind of a bloodbath of the Texans. I think the Texans are kind of just in the let's beat up on our divisional opponents mode right now. And I think the Raiders are going to take full advantage of that. This is an elite offense going against kind of a mediocre Texans defense.
Yeah, no JJ, no Bueno.
Win by... All right. Oh, my God. I can't believe that this is the way that the Crossover Podcast fans are getting introduced to us. All right, man. Well, that was good. We disagreed on a couple, but we agreed on more than we disagreed on. So follow us here. Greg, you want to give us the sports and the social media handles that they want to look at for us?
Yeah, sure. Follow us on Twitter at sportsstance_. You can follow James at sportsstancej for when he randomly tweets out genius tweets.
You're welcome.
Yeah. And then you can find us on Instagram at the Sports Stance and Vine for as long as it's in existence. Same thing. So after that, just keep finding us on, SoundCloud, iTunes, all that. Check us out. Give us a review. Keep listening to the Crossover Podcast, but check us out too. We do a little bit different.
Yep, love it, guys. Thank you so much, Crossover guys, for giving us a chance. And thanks, guys, for listening. Good luck this week in all your bets.
Yeah, thanks for having us. All right.
Cool.
That was good.
All right, man.
All right, nice job.
Yeah.
I'll put this up tomorrow, probably at like 9 or 10 or whatever time it usually is.
Okay, sounds good to me. I'll see it when it goes up.
All right, sounds good. Thanks for making time for this tonight.
Yeah, of course. I'll talk to you.
All right, talk to you later.
All right, bye.